Welcome to the crossroads of the known and the unknown. This is AJ Pa's Spiritual Journalist Podcast.
We are here with Jacob Cooper. He's a clinical social worker, a Reiki master, and a certified hypnotherapist specialized in past life regression. Welcome, Jacob. How are you?
Thank you, AJ. A big honor to be on your show today.
Jacob is the author of two bestsellers, Life After Breath, and also The Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. So I'm really interested in this interview. You are a speaker on grief, wisdom, and consciousness, and you also offer meditation and mindfulness seminars and help people overcome fears of death, right?
Yeah, I work from the ground up and try to help people with so many different tools that's needed for the multidimensional self that we all have.
All of this was triggered by a near-death experience you suffered when you were only 3 years old. This is amazing. A lot of people don't even remember what happened to them when they were three.
Yeah.
But can you tell me about this experience and how it transformed your life?
Yeah, it fascinates my human side, not so much my spiritual side, but my human side. Still fascinated by that understanding. But yeah, I was 3 years old. I went to a playground. I climbed up into a ladder on a slide. At the time, I had pertussis, otherwise known as whooping cough, which for infants or children, could lead to fatalities, or just very serious conditions if left untreated. And, at the top of the slide, I suffocated, lost all the capacity and ability to breathe, and my body and brain literally shut down, and I was able to surrender to a different understanding of a breath, which I now know is the breath of eternity that we all are created from. And from losing my human breath, I surrendered to the breath of eternity, crossed over to the other side, and had a full-blown, mystical, euphoric near-death experience that is with me every day of my life, since that point, 30 years later. This experience was profound, though. Plenty of times, people have near-death experiences, they experience their brain shutting down and suffocating in a whole other higher mind taking place. And for me, that's what happened. My brain literally, I felt it snap in half, crack in half, and that's when everything opened up. So this is very much congruent with near-death experience research that will tell you the brain and mind dichotomy, that they're not one and the same, that the mind exists beyond the brain, not because of it.
You also talk about a palace of God that when you got there, you were able to hear angels and melodic sounds. You also felt the presence of Christ consciousness. Can you describe where did you arrive? What was this place and how did you feel?
Well, in our reality, let's just say we're physical beings. So we're bio-neurochemical. And so there's a certain limitation almost with how good we could feel to a degree, while we're in our body. But when we leave our body, we think of vibrations. And that's what I felt in my near-death experience. And in fact, I'll give an example. Just yesterday, I was at a roller coaster theme park. And it's kind of like that when you go on, when you go on a roller coaster ride and you go insanely fast and you feel yourself like so fast that you can't even think, and it's so euphoric and pleasant and just beyond descriptive words. That's the way the other side is. It's an endless euphoria where there's no limitations with how good you could feel, how high you could soar, how unlimited you are, and there is no time. We're used to constructs, time or just feeling good or feeling sad. There it's just mostly just euphoria with no endless experience of that. And the source of all of life itself is what I experienced. And that was depicted through this palace, and God presents itself in different ways. But to me, that's where every thought, deed, action of all things emanates from, and all of life itself flows from. And we use that term in the religious context as of God, but to me, there's no word to describe that term. I'll use that for our left brain's sake, but where all things emanate from has a term that goes beyond anything of our language. But, the energy of it is unconditional love, understanding, forgiveness, and to me, that is the source of all things. So that was profound because in our lives, we're used to having an understanding of God and kind of like a box and a structure. And over there, there's no structure of it other than euphoric love and understanding that a part of you is forever connected to that energetic force.
So you use this term, Palace of God, metaphorically?
Well, that's what I experienced in my NDE. That's what I saw. But again, that's, I think a lot of people will say, oh, that is God. Yes, that's a part of God, but God will represent itself in so many different things based off of our own understanding and, what it wants to present itself as. But that was a form, that I saw, but it was a very high depiction of it that allowed my mind to just kind of be blown and expanded past this reality.
What about these angels? You also mentioned that you saw angels.
Yeah. There was an endless, sea of angels that I saw in my NDE, with this palace of God, as well as when my body was on the ground, irresponsive to people calling me at the playground. But the angels were literally floating right in front of me. It's like you have like a thin veil of this reality. You just turn that dial up ever so slightly, and there's this veil, this thin veil of angelic beings all around us in this reality. We just kind of are limited in a way. But again, you think of vibrations. They're vibrating so fast that we can't physically see them with our physical eyes, but they're still there. It's kind of like a fan. You can't see a fan when it's going so fast. You can't see the individual blades, but it's still vibrating. It's just at a different rate. So that's why we use our different frequencies. We call that psychic intuition or stuff like that to be able to see these unseen forces. But they were incredibly immaculately beautiful, and I could hear their sounds and I could see their colors, and it was just fascinating to know, looking back, that they are always around us at all times. They never leave us.
Okay, so they look like conventional angels.
Yeah, I think art depicts angels pretty accurately from what I saw in my near-death experience, except I think there's different like stratospheres of angels. There's different sects of them. But the ones that I saw were very youthful in their presentation. They were very young. There's almost kind of like childlike looking, and they were just floating right in front of me very peacefully. They weren't kind of different in a way. They were very just almost identical in their presentation. And their similarity was they were just there to send unconditional love and healing, to the planet. They had no concept of self other than just kind of giving. There was nothing that they were looking for in return, which is so far in from the human condition, where there's give and take. They were just giving and giving. That's what their identity was. So it was just beautiful, to just kind of literally see them right in front of me, right there, floating very peacefully, just sending love and healing and energy, something that I will never forget in my life.
There's something else you mentioned in your life after breath, which is a life review. You had a life review when you were 3 years old, and you say that you also remembered past lives.
Yeah, well, I believe it's not a matter of the years of your life, but the life in your years. I mean, as we know, you could meet someone for a day, and I know certainly if I've had that impact, and they have a whole lifetime worthy of impact of you. Or you know someone, for your whole life and very little impact on your life, So, time is different over there and how they see it. And, so in my life, I was able to really feel a rich experience of understanding my life through, my lens, but also through the love that I meant to others and experienced through others' perspectives, as well as experiencing memories of lifetimes before this, as you mentioned, which would be viewed as past life, which two things could be true at the same time. I was experienced this, my NDE, through my eternal soul, but I still was adjusting from life looking at the lens of a 3-year-old child. And so this blew my mind where I just had this construct for a bit of time of myself as this 3-year-old, and that's all that I was. And so when I was able to see past lives, to remind me that I was not a 3-year-old. I was experiencing myself as a 3-year-old, but that's not the full totality of who I was. And so chronological age or anything of this lifetime is not the full totality of the self. It's just an experience. We're the accumulation of all our different lifetimes, not just this lifetime. But yes, I was aware of other different lifetimes, and I think there was one that particularly had a lot more correlationship with my near-death experience than others.
Yeah, you mentioned there was one in which you ended your life, one of these
Right.
past lives. How could a 3-year-old understand this or process this information?
Like I said, the near-death experience is a full-blown soul experience. So my soul was able to have these memories. I mean, for instance, you could have kids who have memories of thousands of lifetimes ago, and they'll say it very matter-of-factly. So it's paradoxical in many ways. The old in this world are often seen spiritually young because they forget, and the young are seen as spiritually old because they remember. So chronology does not equal, soul wisdom or soul age. So it's great when you're old chronologically and also you're old spiritually, but that doesn't often happen. Many times people forget, so they're quite young spiritually, but if you remember, you have an older presence to you, a presence that transcends just this lifetime and these experiences. But yes, I did have that experience in which I like the way that you phrased it because our world we have a lot of criminalization, towards suicide, and there's a lot of stigma to it and judgment. And I think it's important to, and I learned this years ago myself, where someone sent me an email and they said, Jacob, use the term incorrectly, and they're right. You don't commit a heart attack, you don't commit brain cancer, you don't commit medical acts. And I look at mental health no differently, where it was a decision and it wasn't giving up. I think we just don't understand how hard it was day in and day out to live with what people had to experience, that made them make that decision. So yes, I did do that, and it wasn't judgment, it wasn't, indignation. I think a lot of people are traumatized by abusive parents or religious leaders, and they put that depiction on God. But what kind of God will condemn his own creations that are going through misery, on the inside? That's the last thing that you need. So I could tell you firsthand that that's not the case and that does not happen. But there's opportunity to evolve through that experience. In my near-death experience, I say from completion we begin, but we carry over different themes of our last lifetime. And at least for me, from that last lifetime, I felt my back was against the wall. There was no hope. There was no possibility of metamorphosis that I saw. And I was able to really remember when I crossed over that if I just kind of like waited it out, there was a possibility of change. And my near-death experience is kind of like that, where I was put in that same situation where I was suffocated. There was no hope. There was no prospects. But through the power of surrendering this greater force and intelligence inside myself, I was able to have salvation. I was able to prevail. I was able to live on. And so this is what I try to work on with my clients, which, oftentimes we try to hold on to pain, but it's through letting go and surrender that we could really change and move the needle of our lives through stagnation and paralysis.
Okay, there's something else that happened. You were given the choice to return to life or
Yeah.
stay there, and you were also shown parts of your future. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, it's funny. We use the term past and future, but like I said, on the other side, it's all one moment, which is mind-blowing for linear mind, because our structure is time-bound. It's on calendars, it's on weeks, days. So that's how we are so wired. But over there, there's no such thing as that. We're ageless, we're timeless. But yeah, many near-death experiences, people are either told, hey, it's not your time, you have more work to do. That's usually the case, I would say, more times than not. But for myself, there was autonomy. And that was the hardest question I was posed, which, would I stay or go? And I was really unsure, to be frank with you. And I just asked. There's a power in asking. As they say, ask and you shall receive. And through, asking a question and engaging, with this force, this energy force on the other side, I was able to have, just help and support with what this lifetime was about, why I was here, what I was here to do, what it could look like. And, I was just kind of curious, what would this life be like if I continued it? What would this path look like? It was just all curiosity, and I saw myself helping an immense amount of people and transforming lives. And I said, you know, looking back, it's just the other side will always be there, but this unique window to bring the other side to this life is what it's all about. It's bringing heaven down to earth so that we don't have to wait until we die to remember who we are, who each person is, and who remember who we are, you know? So
So you saw yourself like speaking to groups and
yeah,
helping
I
people.
had that premonition, and you know, I buried that for years. And a lot of people could say, oh wow, you know, this guy is a coup, whatever, but my near-death experience has a lot of evidential points to it that helped me become a believer, because I'm my biggest skeptic in many ways. That's just my nature. I'm not a woo-woo guy, but I had to have a lot of people help me to just kind of validate this experience. You know, I'll share one story. One day I was, you know, asked to leave my home for a bit of time because I got into some kind of spat with a family member, and I was told to stay at my grandparents', and I just got so distraught, and I just found myself walking around the corner just subconsciously, and I found myself in a playground again. And I just began to sob uncontrollably, you know, knowing that the playground I was visiting was like 20 years later around, was a reminder that we're all just children in God's playground. And that's the ultimate home. You know, the playground where heaven was symbology of the home of eternity where we all belong. And I just remembered, no matter how displaced I could be in this earth body, it's just an experience. My true home is not over here, it's over there. So no matter if they want to kick me to the curb, it doesn't matter. My home is over there. There's nothing you could do to take me from there, from that awareness. And then you know, a day or two later, I went to a yoga seminar and I was still feeling a little bit low. And a woman came up to me and she just said, I see you speaking in front of an arena of people. You're going to be a healer one day and help out many people. And I had no idea who this woman was. She just came in. She had this biker hair look and tattooed up. I'm like, who is this person? Like purple hair. I'm like, I had no idea who this person was. I mean, she looked like kind of like a tattoo artist. I don't know. Like I didn't, but you know, highly evolved and aware people come through in many depictions and forms. And to this day, I can't even track down this woman. I don't know who she is. She could have just been an angel there, you know, but she just told me that you're going to be doing this. And that just reminded me of what I saw in my near-death experience. And, you know, since then, plenty of people before me getting public have been able to tap into my NDE without me saying a word. So it gives me a lot of validation to it.
You also mentioned that when you came back, you were guided by angels and spirit guides, and also that you had a contact with your soul family or your soul group.
Yeah. Yeah, my NDE had a full-blown experience with my spirit guides. And, you know, I think in this body, it's like most people could sense their spirit guides, hear their spirit guides, but this was a full-blown experience where I was actually able to see them to both sides of me in my near-death experience. And I can't tell you how beautiful they are. And, you know, the analogy that I give is imagine like you have an incredible infatuation with a Hollywood celebrity, you know, a guy or a girl, and they're on this big pedestal and you just think they're like like God almost. But imagine that person sees and feels that same exact feeling in you. And you're just like, what? You know, this person of high stature and high status that I put on this pedestal sees that in me. And that's the way the spirit, they're in, immaculate, high vibratory, angelic, you know, and beautiful. But the way that we see them is how they exactly invest and see us too. They view us with the same admiration that we have to them as they have to us. And that's was just mind blowing to me. But, you know, before we get here in this life, we're assigned primary guides, which we're contracted to, you know, before we get to this life in the soul contract. And they were there with us till before we're born, and they'll go with us after we die. We're forever connected to our primary guides. But along life, we may pick up a couple different guides, you know, additionally, but our primary guides are locked in, you know, contractually. That's non-negotiable. No matter how much we deserve to be fired or they to fire us, but it's unconditional contractual you know, non-negotiation.
Okay, so you woke up in the hospital, and how did you process this information? Did it seem like a dream? And how many years did it take for you to realize what you had experienced?
Well, I'm like you. I'm a researcher of my own experience. Every day I'm finding out stuff, but I come from a very traditional religious kind of home, so they're not into the woo-woo metaphysical stuff. They're into the everyday kind of stuff. And there's a lot of dogma and rules that I grew up with, but recently my father told me that I came up to him and I said, hey, Dad, and I'm just kind of using the language that I have right now, but I said, hey, Dad, remember when I was rushed into the ambulance, something happened on that day. Right now it's not going to make sense to you, but one day you'll understand. And for myself, I really kept this close to my heart. Many near-death experiences will be of one of two things. Either they'll have it so sacred that they won't tell anyone, or it takes time to process. I know PMH Atwater, who you just had on your show, will attest that it takes several decades for NDEers, particularly infant and children NDEers, to really have language and describe their experiences. So it took me a bit of time to really put into words what I had, but it was always there. But I wasn't going around telling anyone. It wasn't until I was gifted a book by, my godmother, and it was called Embraced by the Light by an author by the name of Betty Adie, who's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show, I believe in the 90s, and she was a New York Times bestseller. And after reading Betty's book, I'm like, holy crap, there's someone else who's had this. I really thought I was the only one who had this. And that gave me a language for this big experience that that I knew was there, my memory filing cabinet that was, sometimes stronger in my life, sometimes it was weaker, but it was always there on my radar, years later. And it just gave me a term and a language for what I had. And that was everything that I needed, you know, in
You
many
wrote
ways.
a second book called The Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. In this, you talk about how you became a healer and how you started helping others, and how did you become what you are today?
Well, I think we're all still becoming each and every day. I say every day in every way, we're getting better and better, so every day is an opportunity to wake up better than we went to sleep that night. So none of us are finished products. We're all constantly evolving. But for myself, I mean, many different ways. I mean, I think my clients are my greatest teachers, working in the field of mental health. The people that I work with have really inspired me and forced me to always dig deeper and find different ways to reach them, where they're at. And it's an evolving population, especially in the last couple of years with the pandemic, and knowing how to adapt, evolve, and change, and always staying current, with different ways to help people has helped, myself grow. But I think it's really internalizing this experience, going within, and just having higher wisdom guide my life. I made a post the other day that, King Solomon was from the Bible was, given a gift. He was having a conversation with God, and he could ask God anything from wealth, material success, prosperity, whatever it is. And the one thing that he asked God was wisdom out of all things. And that's the most powerful force that one could have, I really firmly believe. And so that inspired me, to really give back a book filled with wisdom, and someone who has been to the other side, you know, and is there to really give that over to other people. Because I don't think our experiences happen in our life just for us to hold on to. Their value is in letting go of them for other people and making sense of them and having a ripple effect on others. So that's my everyday task, is to extract wisdom in ways to have spirituality with practicality in everyday life, you know?
Great. You're also into past life regression. I had the chance to go through a session with you, and it was really amazing. I did find some healing during the process. And how did you get started with past life regression, and how did you learn this technique?
Yeah, and that was a fun session that we had. A lot came through. Thank you for your time and opening up. But yeah, for me, after my near-death experience, like I said, my brain was incredibly transformed. And due to the TBI in many ways and the suffocation, my brain, which is just a filter of life, not the producer of life, was very much open. And so I would have a lot of premonitions, psychic experience as a young child. I was crossing over on a regular basis, after this experience. And so a lot came in, but past life memories are very strong to me as a young kid. And I would often get this reoccurring, images of different lifetimes where I'd be playing baseball, and then all of a sudden I would see mountain ranges of myself in other lifetimes, or just kind of random times, not like I was, meditating or stuff like that. They would just happen to me spontaneously. And sometimes they were pleasant, other times unpleasant and an obstruction to, my everyday life. But, I think in a way, our transformation and our pain is our purpose. And, for myself, I just wanted to find ways to understand what it was that I was experiencing. And so that got me on a quest to really study past lives. And more importantly, to help out the next person who may have been going through what I was going through without being able to talk to people about it, to describe what it was, to have a language for it. So I think in many ways, we go through different paths of life, with others behind us and our roads. And we go through those things to help understand people who are walking behind us. And so it's just my way of giving back what I experienced as a young child with some of that confusion, uncertainty, and difficulty with all these things happening. To be on the other side of my life is kind of like two sides, but now I'm the other side of the veil working as a professional with clients. And I found a great deal of closure and healing and transformation with sessions that I've had.
You also talk about the importance of discovering our superpowers. How could you define that?
Yeah, that's a chapter in the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder where, for instance, we have a fascination with Marvel characters, superheroes, Spider-Man, Batman, stuff like that. And I think in a way it's kind of like we aspire to what's inside of us. It's just a reflection of the higher self, and that's what many people gravitate to within themselves. But the issue is we put other people on pedestals and we forget that we also have this within us. Jesus himself, once said, the kingdom within me is within you too. And who know better to know the kingdom of eternity than Jesus himself, right? So I think for us, we're taught that, hey, we have to do something in order to be something. We have to like experience all these years of training or go to the Himalayas and meditate and do all these things. When in reality, all those roads are just journeys to what's already inside of us. And so many people walk thousands of miles away from themselves only to find whatever they're looking for was always within. And for me, my near-death experience was just a reminder that, all of life itself is all of inside of us. We're all a spark of divinity. And that's our greatest superpower. That the divine, can be seen outside of ourselves, but it starts within ourselves. And connecting to this divine spark, is a great superpower. And, it allows us to really transform how we see the world in front of us through a place of judgment or a loving place and a place of possibilities versus a place of, stagnation. So the God lens is a big superpower that we all have, the capacity to see the world through a loving, wise, compassionate, deep lens versus a human lens, which could be quite surfacey.
What other services or ways of helping others do you offer?
Yeah, like I said, I do a lot of, groups and stuff like that. I'm a part of a lot of, grief organizations, such as Helping Parents Heal. I've spoken for Forever Family Foundation in the past. I work with colleges as well, from aged populations. I work with breast cancer, patients as well, those with developmental disabilities. So I do a lot of different seminars, in groups, as well as individual and remote sessions. And so you have a brain, you have a body, you could come to me through my website and we could try to help you through the ground up because I believe we have so many different components to the self, and I try to find different ways to help people navigate, all those components within themselves.
What would you say to someone who is skeptical about life after death or who is fearful of dying?
I think that's a great place to be. Healthy skepticism is very important because especially today, there's so much out there. And I find that if you are desperate, you'll look for almost anything, and that could lead to manipulation, and being taken advantage of. So I think having a degree of healthy skepticism is good. It's kind of like my friend Mark Anthony, speaks about how, all this stuff is kind of like a case of a courtroom, right? Where you want to make a case that something is evidential and real versus something that's not. And I think each person has the right to determine what resonates, what makes sense, what aligns with their highest truth, and what does not. And I think that's the beauty of this life. And so I suggest everyone who's listening to me to come through with, whatever makes sense. It could be that, from your framework, what I'm saying makes no sense, and that's okay too. I think we all have something to add, but I think we all have the capacity to learn from everyone and not be limited by what every single person is saying. I think we all could have discernment to make sense what fits our mold. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
What is
But
your present?
yeah,
Huh?
I think it's important to have a differentiation with skepticism and cynicism. Cynicism is if you could cross your eyes, you could, and no matter what someone says, they can implode in front of flames in front of you, and it's still you won't believe. So that blocks all possibilities. Skepticism, leaves the door a little bit open while, just kind of being discreet with what you want to really latch onto, and ascribe to.
How would you describe your spiritual life? Are there any practices or rituals you adopt? Do you consider yourself a follower of Jesus, Buddha, Krishna?
Oh, I mean, I guess more eclectic and universal. I mean, for me, the way that I connect is different. I'm an athlete, so I like to go on long distance runs, and that's how I really connect, or long distance walks. I'm very, athletic and earthy, so that's kind of my thing. But listening to a lot of meditation music helps. Someone that I really listen to very heavily, his name is Stephen Halpern. He's been around for several decades and someone that I'm connected to in some regards. But his music speaks to me on such a deep level. So playing his music in a way speaks to me. And when you have a near-death experience, you're almost deprived in a way, of all that rich experiences that life could be difficult at times. It's like you've tasted the most elegant wine and now people are serving, cheap wine in front of you. It's hard to like have that same quench of thirst. But, I'll have trickles of that experience in this lifetime and that satiates me. But when I get real authentic, beautiful music, that to me elevates my spirit and just takes me back to that place where I had my NDE, in a way. It transports me.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because you described that in your NDE, you heard this celestial music.
Yeah, well, Steven's music I find to be very congruent with a lot of the stuff that I had in my NDE. His music is very, I think artists and musicians, they really are channelers in a way. They just, the mind is like a parachute. It works if it's open, and these people are very much open-minded, and that allows creativity to flow through them, from the higher realms, you know.
Can you say his name again? Stephen?
Oh, sure. Stephen Halpern, Halpern. There's a lot of great music on Spotify, but to me, this guy just sticks out amongst the rest. There's a lot of good ones too, but for me, he sticks out, and this other man by the name of John Seary, Scrrie, and he's more of this kind of like the outer space kind of music. So that if you're looking to kind of have like a transcendental meditation, John Seary is great. Stephen is more, he does the angelic kind of stuff, but he also does a lot of variations like sound bowls, and he's excellent, but it's all based on our brain waves. So his music corresponds to different like hertzes in the brain and different states. You think of, well, there's the beta state, which, is kind of like on the surface. There's the alpha, the theta, and the delta. And so delta is really deep sleep. Theta is more of a deep meditation. Alpha is, an ideal place to, for our brainwaves to be in. And so Stephen's music has really corresponded to different brainwave frequencies and getting people to those different states of brainwaves. So yeah.
You also teach meditation and mindfulness. What type of meditation do you teach?
Well, I do a lot. I do guided meditations, but mostly a lot of mind-body exercises, which helps people to be more, mindful in the moment. My goal is not always to like escape or evade the body, but to learn how to like lean into it, to be in the body, but also to really feel your spirit in your body. So I work with people to really allow themselves to feel the deeper sense of expanded awareness that could be held within your body. So I think through opening up the blockages of the body, people's spirits could be felt a lot easier. So I use a lot of different mind-body tools, techniques, as well as Reiki meditation and Reiki healing, to help people really connect on a deeper level within, you know. Because when you do that, a lot of my clients will find that I don't have to die to know that I'm eternal. They are able to tap into just a part of themselves that they know is beyond thought, beyond emotion, beyond time, and they're able to get in more in touch, with their soul, through this practice. And I think that's a beautiful thing. There's a lot of people who are living lives very soulless and disconnected from their essence. And we're here to really connect that and expand that energy in our life and remember who we are beyond the human ego and our personality constructs and this box of reality that we see.
Do you feel like sharing a mini meditation or a mini technique
No,
someone can
sure.
follow?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like for each and every person to just, if you can, place one hand on your heart and the other hand on your solar plexus. And when you do this, you could close your eyes or just allow your gaze to just be drawn to one particular area in the room. And like for you all listeners to join me and take a deep inhalation in, breathe in through your nose through several seconds. Inhale, inflate your spirit, and exhale through your mouth, deflate. And continuing this cycle, every breath, inhale, inflating, and exhale, deflating. In this exercise, as we know, breath is life, breath is eternal. And I want you to not only just connect to your human breath during this time, but actually feel the breath of eternity enveloping and surrounding your entire spirit. And so at this time, just feeling your body, all parts of your body from your head to your toe, just maybe feeling it for the first time and allowing a beautiful radiant warmth that you feel with your hands in your heart to go and to flow to all parts of your body. And you may even be aware of other feelings beyond your body. That's okay. Stick with the breath and expand. And now at this time, we have a lot of flighting thoughts. We're used to thinking and thinking. Just imagine a beautiful golden candle right in the middle of your forehead and feel the warmth radiating from this candle and feel this candle melting away all the stuff and stagnation and all the excess thoughts that you don't need, and feel your brain just loosening up a little bit, imagining like a wet towel and just wringing out that towel. Wring out all the tension within your brain, and your body is starting to melt and feel lighter, more at peace, more relaxed, more aligned. Take a deep, beautiful breath in and feel this beautiful candle and this beautiful warmth radiating itself through all cells and different parts of your body. If there's something heavy that you're feeling, just lean right into it. And with the understanding that you are eternal and perfect just as you are, feel the infinity of divinity. Feel your soul expanding. When you let go, your own consciousness will begin to grow. And feel the expansion, letting go of the small sense of self, being right here, right now, in this moment, connected to this breath. Time, take a deep breath in through your nose. Inhale through a couple seconds, breathing in fresh, new, beautiful energy going throughout your entire body, and exhale through your mouth, letting go of all that you do not need. Nature will be our nurture. The trees take in what we don't need, and we take in from the trees and the environment what we do. Allow yourself to just surrender to nature, taking in all that you need, filling your entire being with all that you need, and all that you do not need, just simply letting go. When you feel your cup is more full, count of 3, slowly begin to come back into self, into your body. 2, feeling a beautiful experience within, more expanded, more connected, more open. And 1, coming back down, down, down into your body, into this moment. good. Just slowly starting to feel just that gentle shift in yourself, that gentle lightness, that playfulness, that ease, that joy, that love within inside of you. And remember, just as we charge our cell phones, we also have to charge our cell phones and find different times throughout the day just to reconnect. You'll feel a world of difference in your everyday life. Well, thank you all for joining me, and I hope that this brought you peace that was always within inside of you.
Great. So if someone is interested in receiving your counseling, or if anyone is interested in contacting you, what should they do?
Yes, so you could view my website, jacoblcooper.com. That's jacoblcooper.com, and send me an email and we'll be in touch and look forward to it. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and post, daily inspirational quotes and, images. So, as I say, wisdom is the oxygen of our times, and my goal is to give over wisdom.
Thanks, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. This was really a nice interview, so I appreciate it.
AJ, thank you for all that you do as well. An honor to cross paths with you, and I couldn't thank you enough for the work that you do. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into you. They're tuning into the right place here.
I can testify that your regressions are great. I had a great experience, and I think I healed some past issues thanks to you. So I'm really grateful.
I'm just a guy. You got to thank yourself and your higher self for being able to let go. And I give you all the credit. I'm just a dude, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Take care.
This has been the AJ Parr Spiritual Journalist Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe.